All right, well, hello everybody. Welcome back again. Just give me a second to figure this out and make sure it's all good. It's been a couple of weeks since I streamed last, so I'm sure the settings are all over the place. Let's see here. Moment. I think we got everything good. Just need to... Alright, well, hello everybody. Okay, sounds like it's working. So... Okay, so let's get into this. Let me just bring my notes over here. So... I guess the first thing I want to do is thank Travis S. from Greece. I believe he's from Greece. His super generous Patreon donation has basically funded this entire episode. Very, very, very much appreciated. I mentioned to you in a message. It made my day 2 weeks ago when you donated. I had a really rough SAR case, and it really made for a really decent night. So thank you for that. It was great. Also, thanks to all the new subscribers. Glad you're enjoying it and all that. With that said, it's been about 2 weeks, and the reason for that is, as you probably won't see on my YouTube, but on my Twitch, there's a little mention there that if I'm not around, or if I don't show up for a stream, really the only reason is because there's been a SAR call out, and the last 2 weeks there have been. The first one was pretty rough on our crew, and it took a few days for us to sort of get past that and talk it through and stuff. The one that happened this last weekend it went way better, but it was quite well, I won't go into it, but those are the two reasons why I wasn't here. So it's now Monday, and I've decided to just try to do a stream today to make up for that, and that. So that's, with that said, let's get into it. From now on, I just wanted to mention, I've been looking at my stats, and I'm sort of seeing that people looks like they might be not watching some of the whole episodes and maybe skipping past the start of some of these things. So let me know in the comments if you'd like me to sort of restructure them. I can kind of do shorter intros and sort of get right into it and leave all that stuff for the end. Or if you guys are okay with the intros, let me know and I can restructure it a little bit. So if you find yourself sort of skipping past looking for the good stuff, then that's cool. I can restructure a bit too. So you guys can sort of get to the content you want. That being said, an update on the project. So I've been working slowly and sort of randomly on this, and the reason obviously is that I've got a lot of other projects that I have to do. I've got to make a living, and they are paying projects from actual real work people. So it's this week alone I think I have 8 projects that I have to do, so I have to fit this in whenever I can, and that's to sort of plug it. That's why I have the Patreon up there, so people like Travis, who are awesome, and Marlene, who are awesome and donate, it gives me that ability to spend those days or whatever working on this project more and more. So I've been working on small little bits and pieces. A lot of it has been research, in terms of going back and looking over some of the things that I've done already, and trying, because I've got some new information. I found some new photos that I thought was really cool, and they're not really more mind-blowing in terms of, but they're just different angles, and a lot of them are from on set, and I love those behind-the-scenes production photos because they show angles and things that you just don't get to see ever in the movie, and a lot of times they're really high quality because somebody has a huge camera, except for you get back into the 70s obviously, and the pictures are film, and if they haven't been transferred correctly, then they can be a little bit low quality, but for the most part they're awesome. So I've been going back, just kind of looking over the pattern, making sure those the new sort of little information tidbits that I've found are sort of working. So that's been mostly what I've been doing, and still just organizing the pattern. If I could show you one time, I'll show you the amount of layers and the amount of like places and stuff all the patterns take up, and I've got it's mind-numbing, and it's difficult to work through. So I've had to keep cleaning those up to make sure they work. So that being said, I was asked this last week when the patterns look like they're going to be coming out based on the current project, because there's a couple people that want to get started right away on theirs, and obviously I understand that. Travis asked me, he'd like to get started on his in July, and I'm going to try to work this month on getting really far ahead if I can. Once I get some of the projects out of the way that I have to do to, paying projects. I do have a hike planned, a week-long hike at the end of this month, so it makes it a bit of a short month for me in terms of what I can do. But I'm going to try. I can't make any guarantees, but we'll see. So with that said, just let me double check things are kind of working here. Okay, just see. I just want to make sure that everything's kind of going to plan here, and we're still sort of streaming and everything's fine. What was it that I was going to check? Oh yeah, okay. The chat rooms. Okay, so today I wanted to look at the hooks, and what I mean by hooks are the you got the buckle, right, and then you've got the leather, and it's those parts that hook onto the back of the buckle to so you can put it on, take it off, and stuff like that. I wanted to look at those because as I was looking through my pattern last week, I noticed that I don't think I have a couple things right, and I've sort of episode 7, I found a new photo that I think answers some questions. So let's just take a look at those today. And I'm going to work a little bit on this. I don't have much, so I'm just going to dedicate this entire day to the hooks, basically. So let's get started here. So let's start with episode 4. Okay, so this one is a bit difficult in the sense that there isn't. Well, let's look at this to start with. I am able to. Well, actually, here's a better one. Let's start with this one for 2 seconds. This is an excellent photo in terms of knowing what this looks like. I mean, there's no disputing what this is, right? So the shape that I have in my pattern is exactly like this. Now, I was a little bit surprised to find how short this was. The distance, or this loop or whatever, means that it actually comes quite close to the edge, probably somewhere in here on the buckle. If you kind of look over here where my mouse is, I think it's probably somewhere in there. And I think I have it pretty good in my pattern because of the things that swing. I think I've got those in the right spot. That shape, though, I mean, I've got that down. I think I've got that perfect as I'm going to get. The problem is, obviously, is that this side, I have no idea. And, you're going to say to yourself, well, why isn't this the same shape? And you would think that, right? You'd think that on all the holsters, you'd think, well, these two hooks are going to be symmetrical, right? Why not? Why wouldn't they be? They're not. For some weird reason that I can't explain, they are not symmetrical on at least 2 of the holsters. So it makes me think: is this one or is this one not? And I'll tell you why I think that is. Because this side is probably permanently attached. There's no reason for it not to be. It would sort of have to be in terms to keep it sort of on, and it can be permanently attached because these swinging hooks here don't interfere, so it can be permanently attached. Because of that, I think that they, in many times, just didn't bother making them smaller like this. And I think the reason why this one tapers and some of the other ones kind of do as well is to allow for space for this these swinging hooks to kind of give them some clearance. So with episode 4, it's a bit of a weird thing because there's no way to tell what the shape is. And if you go through, there's some different photos and stuff, you can see that it definitely tapers a bit, but to what degree, no idea. It could just taper a little bit and come back out. It could go exactly like the other one. It's really hard to tell, and none of the photos that I have available really show. This one shows a bit more of an angle, but they don't really show what that is. So it makes it kind of, and I think I may have one more for you guys. Maybe I don't. But that makes it quite difficult, because if we come over here to the pattern, so this is the episode 4 pattern. I've got this side here, which we know because of the photo here. So we can come back here for us 1 second, and we know for sure that this is the shape of this. But the other side, originally, this is what I had here, and I realize now that this is completely inaccurate. Well, I don't know for sure, to tell you the truth. There's a bit of a taper. It could go straight like this. It could be exactly like this. I don't know. The other thing that we'll go into here for a sec, and this is just a quick reminder for everybody out there and I discussed this in a previous episode, but we've got these they don't have rivets. So these are attached some way behind here, and it's anyone's guess how that was. Here's my thought on how this was. So if you look at these are a side view, and you can see it's sort of curved here, like it would be. My guess is it's probably a rivet or some sort of Chicago screw or something along those lines on the back here. And that probably was done with a washer or something to keep, because you have to, if you were to do a rivet or something on the back, you would have to distribute the weight along the leather, or it would just pull out, right? Eventually, like a belt, it's, if you have a one belt with a loop, eventually it's going to just pull free. So it was probably a washer or something like that, or 2 small washers. What I've done in my pattern here, and I'm, who knows if this is accurate or not, but I've created these sort of weight distribution things that are the same, essentially, shape as the front of the hooks here, because I kind of thought, you could put a washer in there, but why not do something? Why not just cut another metal piece that kind of distributed the weight nicely, and it looked nice on the inside. So whatever this ends up being, if you rivet it, or if you, let's say you take a metal bar or something and weld it to the back of this and then hammer it down, whatever you end up doing, you'll have this pattern here to kind of put over top of this, and that. So let's go here. This music that I have going, not sure if you guys can hear it. It's fantastic music. It's a really low parts, and it just cuts out on my ears and makes me think, oh, did my iTunes crash or something? So, but yeah, this hook itself is confusing. I mean, it's nice to have this. Not knowing what any of this is here makes it difficult. The rivets, or not knowing how these rivets were kind of hidden, really is anyone's guess as to how that was done. So, I don't know what to do actually, and if anybody watching this, if you have some ideas, comment on it. If you have another photo that kind of shows a better idea of what this would be, please send it along, because I can guess, but I would like to know for sure. You can see the bit of the taper here. So what I'm kind of thinking is that how can I put this? I think what I'm thinking is I'm going to make them symmetrical. This was my original thought. I don't think this is the case anymore. I think it's just going to be this one, over here. So, so with that said, let's close these down for a minute. And let's go into episode 5. So here's one. So episode 5 is another one of those holsters where we have really good reference photos. I mean, this is undeniable what this is. It's a perfect straight piece with a curve or with a bend over, and that's that. Super easy. So if we go to episode 5 here, let's come down. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's a perfect rectangle that's bent around, and you got, this sort of bend, and it's pretty straightforward. That one was probably the easiest buckle that I've been able to do, or when I started out doing, because I mean, it was just so easy to reference all the sizes and stuff. This other buckle, you'd think, okay, cool. Then if that's one straight, then this one must be straight as well. Well, not quite. So there's a couple photos that I've been able to track down, and I have one that I took myself. So let's come in here. So you'd think, well, it would be straight, right? But for some reason, an completely unknown reason, this here has a bit of a curve, and then this weird kind of swing up like this, right? And I don't know why. I have no idea why. It doesn't. If it was something to do with this swinging hook here, or whatever this, I need to come up with a proper name for this thing, but if it had something to do with that, it would make sense. Okay, it needs clearance or whatever, or the way that it attaches to the back, but it really doesn't make any sense why this would be cut out like this. But it is. You can obviously see there's this little weird indent here, and then it goes likely straight and then comes down. What I don't know, obviously, is because I can't see behind this, is whether it's the same on the other side, but I'm going to assume that it is. I mean, why would they chop this one side out of there? The only other thing I can think of randomly, but I don't think that that's probably the case, is something could have just chipped this out. And but who knows? Just give me 1 second here. Got a text, as you all saw. Brent Arling was just saying that he's having trouble viewing on Twitch. If you're having trouble viewing on Twitch, there may be a reason, and the reason is that Twitch switched over to HTML5 videos, and for some reason, some computers, my own included, sometimes they have problems with that. So if you're on Twitch and you're having problems viewing videos in general, there's a little on the person's video you're trying to watch, down at the bottom, I believe there's a little sort of gear icon. If you click on that, I think you can switch from HTML to Flash. and sometimes it works. If not, you can try a different browser like Chrome or something like that, and that may work. I don't know why that is. Sometimes videos hang up for me. It's working. Excuse me. It's working for me. So, I believe it's working for me. Sometimes it doesn't. So if you're having that trouble and you're not able to watch, I guess if you're not able to watch, you can't get that advice. So I guess you're screwed. So too bad. That said, let's go back to this. So yeah, I think that this is probably, and if we go down to here, this is what I have, right? I put this little groove in here, made it straight as the other one, and that's about, the best it can be. I don't know how it would be any different. I don't know why it's like that. It's really strange. I would love to be able to talk to whoever did this, and ask them. One thing we'll talk about here while we're here is that these rivets on on this particular holster are quite round. On episode 7, they're quite flat, and these are just little design changes. You'll see on episode 6 as well. They're a little bit more round, but they're a little bit different shape. So we've got that, and that's obviously that, and you can sort of see it here as well too. A little bit different angle. It instead of going straight across, it has this little. Now, at first, when I first designed this this hook, I actually tapered it down and thought, oh, actually it's tapering down, and then what you're looking at here is the back of the loop, or the hook part. That's originally what I thought, but when I had access to that other photo that I just showed you guys, this one, I realized that that's not the case. It's not actually looped around, and that's not the back of the loop you're seeing. It is the shape of it. So you can see here as well. And the reason why I made them symmetrical is because if you look here, and there's a few other photos I do have that show that it does taper down as well. So it's my guess that this is probably the case. It just, for whatever reason, on this side's straight, complete rectangle. This side has this little sort of gouge out of it for some reason. Not sure why. That's just the design, I guess. Another thing to note while we're looking at this one too is that these rivets are not symmetrical as well in terms of their placement. These ones are actually pretty okay on this side. This one is really close to this edge, and this one seems like a smaller ball on this rivet, and it's pushed over a little bit further. You might be able to see that on one of the other photos. Not this one. I have a couple other ones that show it. So it's not a perfect holster. None of them are, and that's the thing, is you can make them really symmetrical and really like an idealized version. But if you want that kind of it's almost like a homemade version or a look to it. So while we're here, and I don't want to spend too much time. Well, let me just skip back for 2 seconds. One of the things that's been difficult, I'm going to close these down for 2 seconds because I want to I'm going to skip around a little bit today, because this is kind of how I'm all over the place today too, in talking to you guys too. But I'm going to be skipping all over the place because I reference all of these things, in relation to each other. But let's go back here for a second and look at figuring out the size of these things has been a bit of an issue as well. The height of them. If you look at this one, you can see this is a 2-inch piece of leather. I think we've determined that to be accurate on all the holsters. So if you look at that, you see that there's this little kind of bit of leather here and a little bit of leather here. On this side, however, it almost looks like the hook is exactly the same width. And if you go here, you can see that this one's real tough to see because of it. But I do want to mention this here as something that little bit there. It looks like a little piece of metal to me, doesn't it? Little something. Not sure what that is. Could be the way that it's been attached. There could be something crazy to them that I don't even know, but Anyway, side tangent. Let's go back to... Okay, so... yeah, and there's some other episode 4 photos that I have, but these don't look like they're exactly 2 inches. And if we come into my pattern here, and I just create a new working layer for today. If we create say a 3-inch by 2-inch and let's put a bit of a stroke on this in red so it's easy to tell. Did I get that right? Okay. So if we come in here and line that up basically, let's do this a little bit. You can see there's a bit on top and on the bottom, and this is where I'm getting a little confused as to whether my sizes are actually correct, because this amount of space, whatever that may be, may not be correct. We're talking millimeters at this point, but I'm still not sure that I've got it big enough. Because it's not a lot of distance, it is some though. This could be right, this could be wrong, but that being said, I'll go down. So let's go back to episode 5 for 1 second. That's not 5, and that's not 5. Sorry about that. Where are we? Now, if we come to 5, this one is quite deceptive as well. And if you look at the one side here, you'll see that it looks like it's the same width of the leather, right? There's not a lot of leather sticking out on the top here, and it doesn't look like there's a bunch here. However, on this one, there's a lot of leather right here, and it's hard to tell up here. So they look a little bit inconsistent. If we go to this one, this one's a little easier to see, and this is the one I've been basing mine off of. You can see that it's not exactly 2 inches high, and I think I talked to my last one where oh man, I should eat some lunch before this. Anyway, sorry about that. Live streaming, right? In last week's, I think it was the last episode, I talked about how a lot of people make these the width or the height of them incorrectly. They're either too short or too long, and in this case, I think this is a pretty good evidence to indicate that they're not exactly 2 inches. The leather is 2 inches here, and then sort of curves down and is sort of cut at a bit of a curve here. And these don't sit exactly at the 2 inches. And it makes sense if you think about it, because when you are walking around, the last thing you want is this metal bit, cutting into your bantha gonads here, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's the same here. The problem is on this one, and is that it really looks like it was just put on terribly. Like there's space here, but there really isn't in the bottom, which makes me think that it's probably still not 2 inches, but pretty close. Don't have a better one open at this point. Let me just see if I. Let me just quickly go through here and see if I can find one that gives a better. While I'm doing this, I'll just explain that today, in the description, today's a bit more of a working day. I'm going to go at a bit more random and slow pace. I've got, my notes and stuff, but this whole middle bit is me just kind of improvising, working through it. So it's going to be a little disjointed and a little, maybe a little annoying, but I just want to kind of spend some time kind of working with you guys so you can sort of see what's going on and talking through this helps me as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of work on this. So episode 5, let's see if I got something a little bit better for that other side. Okay, so let's take a look at this one for a sec. Let's open it in preview. Bring it up a bit. You can see here that, first of all, check out the rivets, right? Look at that big giant space right there and that tiny little space right there. The rivets are not equal. And that's one of the things on my pattern. Just go to episode 5. My rivets are actually idealized, and they won't be. I'm going to create an idealized version of the pattern for you guys that want to do that, but I'm going to also provide a version that's completely accurate. So I'm going to move that over after, but I wanted to sort of get it idealized first and then sort of start shifting things around. But to go back to what I was talking about, you can see how this one looks as though it might actually be exactly the length here of the leather, or the width of the leather here, but not so much on the top here. And neither was put on bad. It shifted over time, or this is a little bit different height than 2 inches. Something probably more along the lines of 2 inches if this is kind of overlapping a little bit here. So this could be exactly 2 inches, whereas the other side, might be less than 2 inches. And it would make sense because, I mean, we got this weird little taper, right? So that's sort of that. Let's see here. These are really, I've got to figure out a better way to do this. So let's just go to the pattern for a second. We can just talk about this. So yeah, so you can see here I have the one side, and if I again come in here and create a guide and line this up just roughly, you can see that I've got it the same as the other one. The other is the same width, but I'm not sure that that's correct, and I may bump these up to reflect what we've just been talking about. You can sort of see on this side. I think this side's correct. I think that makes sense from the point of view of like how much leather is on the top and bottom. I'm not convinced on the other side, so that may be something I look into a little bit more. But if you have any thoughts or comments, put them in. Let me know, because it would be really it'd be really cool to know what you guys think in terms of whether this is exactly 2 inches or more or less, or how close it is, or So let's go on to episode 6. Now, episode 6, if you were here, I think it was last week, or I don't know which week it was. Go check some of the previous episodes, but here we're looking at episode 6. Episode 6 is the weirdest, craziest holster that there is, and this is one of the reasons why. Check out this side. You've got this really strong taper like you would with the episode 4 holster. But then you have on the other side it's like the complete and total opposite of the episode 5 holster, other than the fact that when I first did this, I thought, oh, they're the same, right? Like, okay, there's this little groove or cut out of there. It's not the same, and I'll show you the difference. So if you look at the episode 5 hook here, you can see that there's this kind of upward swoop, we'll call it, bit of a concave swoop here. But on the episode 6, that's not the case. It's not that sort of concave shape. It's more of a convex sort of curve here. So let's see here. Yeah, so it's really strange in that as well. And it really, again, it makes no sense. It doesn't look the same as this one here. It's not it's not like it's trying. Maybe they were trying in some weird random way to make it look symmetrical, but it really doesn't in any way at all. So those two are really strange, and you can sort of see again here, it's not exactly 2 inches. It's quite a bit smaller than that. Other than, again, we get to this one where it kind of hits the bottom and then hits the top. But there's a lot on this side, so I think it was just put on poorly. But it is strange, right? Like, and if you look at the rivets again, they're kind of not really all that symmetrical. This one's quite small. They're smaller than episode 5, I believe, by just a little bit. But it's really strange, right? How that's done like that. It's just, and these are movie things, right? Fast as possible. You're not going to notice this on screen. I'm not sure. I mean, it was me personally when I worked in the film industry. I spent an extra second making sure these were lined up, because why not? Things like this. I took a little bit of pride, but I understand that if like this thing could have literally been made 2 hours before shooting, and that was the way it was. So, let's go in here. The big difference from the episode 6 and all the other holsters again is that where all the other holsters, these are straight, and what I mean by straight is that the hook itself is cut on a flat sheet and completely straight. It's not bent in any way or whatever like that. On episode 6, hopefully you guys cannot hear my rumbling stomach. That's so stupid. I had 2 muffins. That should be enough. On episode 6, you where's that other one here? It's episode 5. Here we go. It is definitely bent, and it's really strange the way that it is bent like that. Not sure why they did that. You can see here, just on a side note, this pin here is quite long on this one, and maybe they did that because they found on the other holsters that this wasn't swinging that nicely, or whoever made this one felt, oh, that's just what I'll do, is I'll just get this out of the way a little bit. Whatever the reason, this has a bend in it. So what that ends up doing is the buckle on the other ones sit fairly flat on the body, whereas this one, you'll see if you watch episode 6, they're almost always sticking out in this weird kind of angle on the one side. I'm not sure the other side. I don't think the other side is actually bent. I think just this one side. And then if we kind of go, I don't think I have any more open. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can sort of see here. It always looks like the one side is flat against it, and the other side kind of always sort of pushes out a little bit. And that's, I think, due to that bend. But it is, it is something that you have to keep in mind when you do your patterns. So if we go and look at, mine here. That's not it. I was looking at it. I do have that in the pattern, so that's where you would bend that on that bend line there. And it would just sort of, you go, you just sort of cut it out normally like this. You would, fold this side over so it's like that, and you'd bend it right here. So, and then the other side, obviously, here's where we are again. So it's like that. Okay, so where do we go from here? Yeah, strange. It's a very, very strange set of hooks for this particular one. Oh yeah, let's go and look at this. Oh, wait, that's not one. Photo. So, just to reiterate what I was just saying, you can see here that this this curves down. There's a bit of a curve here and a curve here, and then it goes flat. Then I suspect it sort of connects somewhere in here, and but you can sort of see it's kind of off. And I mean, it's hard to judge, right? Because these things have been sitting around for so long. They went through set. Harrison Ford was running around on set. Even in the part where he runs around the bunker and on Endor, could have put a ton of strain on the rivets that are here. And if you look at the back, this could have been slowly pulled out over time. The leather, could stretch over time, or dry out over time. So it's hard to know what this looked like exactly on the day, but we have what we have. So, that's that. Now, episode 7 is a big giant pain in my butt. And the reason why is that there are almost no reference photos out there for many of the parts. It's the strangest thing how a modern movie with where they tend to do these behind the scenes kind of featurettes and everything like that, how there are no good photos out there of this holster. It drives me crazy that there's just nothing out there, and maybe they're saving all those things for those those sort of behind the scenes Star Wars books or whatever that you buy over the next couple of years and stuff that they release. But finding the information that I need, especially like I said in a couple episodes back, the back of the holster, I have no idea what it looks like, and if you can tell me, then I'll give you full credit, because there's just no way to see the back of this buckle, what shape it is, what size it is, what it looks like, how many buttons are back there. And up until yesterday, actually, when I found this on Pinterest, I had no idea what the shape of these hooks were. I just had no idea. So this was a good find. It doesn't show much, but we can obviously see that it is a straight piece. And I think there's no telling what on the other side is. But if we go look at the pattern here. So this is just right now it's an exact copy of the episode 5. And you can still see I've got that curve in there. But what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that right now, is I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to pull this over, and I'm going to do this. I am going to say that these are, until there's better evidence, I'm going to assume they're symmetrical. And the reason I'm going to say that is because if I bring up my episode 7 stuff here, let's go in here and find that one photo that's probably the best one that we're going to get ever. So I think that's the one. Oh, actually this one will be good. And I'm going to bring up the other one. We can see that it goes straight here. It's hard to see, but you can see there's no curves that really can be seen. And if we go into this really high quality photo here, we can see that it goes pretty much straight. And so to me that's confirmed in my mind that those two hooks are completely straight and symmetrical, just like they are here. How long they are, no idea. Not sure I'll ever be able to know unless there's one where they have a prop, like this. If there's a photo that ever shows up, and if you guys see it, send it to me. If we see something exactly like this, my guess is honestly that the person that had to make the holster for episode 7 probably did, exactly what I'm doing now, and what many of you have done, is just went and looked on the internet and looked and found this photo and said, oh, okay, cool, that's straight, that makes sense, I'm gonna do that like that, because why not? So I think that this is what it is. It's straight. The difference, however, between this holster And all the other holsters, as you can see, if we look here, this 2-inch piece of leather, right? This goes edge to edge. There is no, on this one, there's no overlap there for the leather. So these are actually, in my opinion, 2 inches exactly. Which, you know, that's what I believe. And let's see here. Another one here, you guys see. So straight, right? Let's see. This one actually shows it pretty good too. So you can see it's fairly straight. The difference really, the biggest difference in this. Oh, this is the photo I was looking for, actually. Okay, that's coming here. The difference really in this holster to and these hooks to all the other holsters is that these rivets, if you notice them, they're not those sort of dome-shaped rivets of the other holsters, 4 and 5, sorry, 5 and 6. They're very flat, and in fact, they even have a little bit of a dent in the middle, except for this one, which for some reason, maybe it's the lighting, but looks kind of flat. So these are really flat rivets. They're just like these ones. Tracking these down are going to be like a pain, but they're going to be awesome if we can find out what these actual rivets are. Because that's, you know, you can tell there's this little ridge on there and stuff. And I think these are somewhat similar. But those flat rivets are cool. In my opinion, I really like the look of them. So it's something that I'm going to have to change here. This is this dome-shaped rivet is not going to do it. And in terms of the, I can't believe I just did I? Okay. In terms of placement, they're actually quite symmetrical. It was nice that the person who came and made this one kept them very symmetrical. Because it looks really good to me. I really like this holster, actually. I kind of miss the pouch being here. I think the choice to take it further to the side was a bad one. I think it doesn't give enough detail on the side of the... It cleans up the holster, makes it look a little bit more minimalist. But I think that pouch over there and, the droid collar being gone and stuff makes this side of the holster a little bit... makes it a little bit too barren compared to the other side. But, that being said, I think the rest of the holster is really cool. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to spend a couple minutes working on these hooks. It's been roughly an hour now, but like I say, thanks to Travis, we've got a little bit more time today. I am on call until 6 o'clock, so if there's a call out, then this stream will end quite quickly, but let's just work. So I'm going to bring this over here to my other screen. I don't really need this one open right now. Let's come in here. So first things first is I'm going to create a copy of this. I don't want to destroy my original ones if I don't have to. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to turn on my guides, which actually aren't going to help me right now, but let's turn those off. Let's make a new guide layer. Let's do that 3-inch by 2-inch. And sorry. I didn't even check the chat. I've been a bad host. So Arling just saying love the music. Okay, then there's some other amazing comments from Arling. Thank you, Arling, for your kind words. Let me move this chat somewhere so I can actually see it. Pops up. It's out of the way. Okay. I don't even think I could read that comment on Twitch without getting banned, so thanks, buddy. Okay, so where was I? All right, so let's take this 2-inch, this 2-inch guide over here. So we got 2-inch guide. Let's lock that guide layer down. Let's come in here. So what we'll do. See, this is where this gets a little bit. This is where this gets a little bit weird because I don't. My instinct is to just take this thing and kind of scale it up, but that does obviously add length to it. But let's just do it, because why not? I'm not going to make it exactly 2. Let's see here. The height is 1.79. Let's just do 2. That's not. Nope. I don't want to do that. Sorry about that. Let's do 2 to lock that down if I don't. Okay, so 2. And then I'm going to come in here. And I want to make sure that this is nice and lined up on top. And the bottom. Okay, good. So this is exactly 2 inches now. And I think that makes sense. Going to bring this back up. All right, so that would be the final sort of, I guess, a width to this. That means that this is also going to have to change. So let's do this and make sure that's locked down. Let's do that. That'll be 2 inches tall. I believe that's... I'm going to create a new guide layer here. Line these up. Let's do this. Actually, I'm going to... One of the things I realized when I was making my guide layers is... no, they're good. Okay, cool. And I've been super, I think I mentioned this a while ago, but I've been super anal with making sure that these are all just pixel for pixel lined up. I don't want my patterns to be like this kind of stuff here. Just drives me insane. I mean, this, if I'm making a guide layer and trying to line these things up, I want them to be perfect, and probably shouldn't put my guide layer on the actual layer I'm working on. That's weird. It's hard to stream and work, and I gotta give credit to the streamers that do that for hours and hours, because it's difficult. It's difficult to. I get, it's really like nerve-wracking to sit here and kind of work on, Illustrator when potentially a bunch of people are watching, because I don't want them to go, what are you doing? I mean, I've been using Illustrator for a long time, so it's not that big of a deal, but it does make me a little nervous. Okay, so that's good. Now, I'll lock down that layer. Grab this. Huh, interesting. What is this? Don't know. Don't care. Oh, I know what this is. This was that that rivet on the other one that's off center. That was my for that. So let's bring this in here. Really, really close. Good. We're lined up. Okay, so that makes sense. Now here's where this is going to get a little bit tricky, because I can't just come in here and sort of scale this up like the other one because I want to keep the same width here. So what I'm going to have to do, let's create another guide on the guide layer. Get that all lined up. Now, when you're looking at my pattern, you may be sitting sort of there wondering, now that I just did this, why it is that the guide layer comes from the end of this, which would be the end of the curve, why there's this sort of dotted line that doesn't actually line up. And the reason for that is that when my understanding is, and in my experience as well, and I've confirmed this and I will double confirm it, is when you bend metal in any way, when you bend metal in any way, the way that metal bends, the kind of the physics of it are that it won't bend like exactly like paper, right? It stretches on the outside and compresses in the middle. So I've worked out the calculation. There's actually a calculation that you can work out for metal bending that says if you do it a certain radius or whatever, with a certain thickness of metal, then what will happen is it'll bend in a weird sort of way. So when you're actually bending this at home and you bend it on that line, you'll find that will make for the perfect curve. And if it doesn't work out, whatever. The other way to do it too is, and this is what this is, if you kind of look at my pattern, this is just extra. So if you're kind of a little bit leery, or guess, or just nervous about getting that perfect, what you can do is just cut that your piece out a little bit longer. You can make it as long as you want. You can make it like 10 inches if you want. Make that curve and then just chop it off afterwards with a saw or whatever in the exact spot that you want it. So there's two ways to do it, but that's why that is. So let me see. Arling just mentioned that Star Wars related news. That about the world's largest privately owned Star Wars collection being robbed. Oh, that's terrible. That sucks. I would be so sad if I had this sweet collection and somebody busted in and took it. I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do with it. I mean, I guess you could display it. Okay, so turns out the thief was a good friend of the owner for 20 some years, and before becoming aware of the missing items, the thief had gotten away with upwards of $200,000. That, I mean, I don't, like, what are you gonna do? You can't sell it. Maybe there's a black market for Star Wars. I don't know. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's black market props out there. Your buddy, like, you can never invite him over again if it's your friend. It's like, hey man, you want to come over and... Oh wait, no, can't. I don't know. Weird. But that really sucks though. Stupid thing to do. So what I'm gonna have to do here is I'm gonna have to line this up. Arling, I think you can link the article in Twitch. The mod thing might stop stop it from being, but I don't know. Go ahead and try. All right, so let's line this up. Okay, I'm gonna move this out of the way just because I don't want it here. This out of the way. I just wanted this 2-inch. So actually, I'll bring it over here. You can line that other side up too. And there. I've got the link in Twitch, Arling, so it looks like it does work, unless it deletes it. I can see it. Nobody else can. So, but check it out on IO9. See, and you can take a look, read all about that. There's also some other Star Wars news, and I won't spoil it for anyone. But there was a new looking stormtrooper, perhaps. Hopefully that's not a spoiler for the new Han Solo movie. There's a little bit of a video on there from on set. And, speaking of that, actually, and I'm just going to go on a bit of a rant while I'm kind of working here. That Han Solo movie, I am really hoping that they understand that Han Solo in episode 4 has, he's not the hero, right? He's not a hero in episode 4. He starts out, obviously a smuggler and a scoundrel, and he shot Greedo, in the cantina there. He was kind of an asshole to people. He didn't really want to help out anybody. He was kind of really only in it for the money. If they go back and create that character that, and where he's all suddenly, this nice guy, or he's got a good conscience, or whatever the case may be, it's going to be really frustrating for me, because, Han Solo should be he should grow into that character, and that's that character's, story arc, is to, by the time Jedi rolls around, or even by the time, episode 7 rolls around, Han Solo has changed. He's grown as a character and become something else. So if they make him like a nice hero, it's going to be really annoying to me. Because that's just not... He's got to be, I guess, a bit of an anti-hero, or even just not a hero at all, really, would be how I would do it, but... I'll have to see where they go with that. I'm not convinced. I think it's cool to tell other stories and stuff, but there's like so many other characters in Star Wars that I think they could do stories on, backstories on, prequel stories, that wouldn't, require us all to sit there for 2.5 hours pretending that some guy is Harrison Ford, because honestly, Harrison Ford is Harrison Ford, and he's either going to be a weird caricature of Harrison Ford, or he's going to be, his own kind of take on Harrison Ford. It's going to be awkward. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how it's going to work out. I know a lot of people don't care about that kind of stuff, but for me, it's a bit of a pain. So when that kind of stuff happens, I mean, they changed, obviously the guy who did Dumbledore in Harry Potter, Arning was saying, maybe I have a big softie for Donald Glover, but I really like to the casting Lando. Yeah, I mean, he's a great actor. I've seen him in other stuff, and I think it's a good choice for if you have to get a young Lando. I think he's awesome for that role. But again, it's hard for me to take myself out of that and see anybody but different actors. So I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know what I was talking about before that, but okay, so what do we got here? All right, so I've got the guy that they did. Arling asked who they got to for Han Solo. I don't actually remember his name. I don't know. I don't even think I've ever seen him in anything. So I don't know. I wish I could answer that, but I don't know. Apparently he's somewhat famous, but not sure. I don't know. I don't think he's got the look personally. It's sort of bothered me a little bit. When I first saw him, I was like, he doesn't really look like Harrison Ford. He really doesn't kind of seem to have that kind of same presence as Harrison Ford, but you know, maybe he can pull it off. Okay. All right. So what we've got here is I've created these guides here that to keep this all lined up. I'm going to create another one here just to do this. Now this is all I say this every time I start working on this, and the reason I say it is because I know that some of you guys are, you know, chomping at the bit to get out there and start your own holsters and stuff. And what I don't want you to do is at the end of the stream sit there and say, oh, okay, cool, I'm gonna look at his, you know, and everything's good, and I'm gonna just sort of take that as a screen capture and go ahead and do on my own, because I'm gonna come in here and I will tweak these for hours afterwards, and you know, move, because right now I've taken a you know, I've taken the size that it was and I've sort of scaled it up to 2 inches without really any regard, right? I mean, now the rivets are bigger, the, you know, the length is longer than it was before, so this really could throw the whole thing off. So I'm gonna have to go back in there and I may have to shorten it up, you know, width-wise or lengthwise, sorry. I may have to create different and figure out what those rivet sizes are on the episode 7 compared to, they do look bigger because they're flat, so you know, they could be a different size. So don't just sort of take this and sort of say, okay, good enough. Eldon and Heinrich. I don't know how to say his last name. I have a German wife, so if I say it wrong, she's gonna kill me, but whatever. So we've got this. No, so this is the rounded rivet. Get this in the middle, line this up. Alright, so, but as we saw before, and we'll come over here again, we'll see that these rivets are not, they're not that dome shaped, they're much flatter. They look like they almost have, it's hard to tell, right? Because this one and this one, these rivets here, which seem like they may have been done in a similar way, or out of the same sort of rivet pack or whatever, or wherever they ordered these, sourced these from. It looks like they could have a bit of a like almost like a taper on them, and if you look here, it looks like that could be the case. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to sort of come in here and I'm going to sort of assume that these are the same width, but do it like this. Put that there. Do that. I mean, obviously, I have no idea what, you know, this is just a guide because the actual rivets themselves are going to be, you know, something different. So, but this will get us sort of started. And get rid of you. And make you, there we go. That's sure why this is. Oh yeah, right. Okay, total noob. I'm putting my guide layers on the wrong layer, so got that. So sec. Okay, so far we've got our let's get rid of the guides for 1 second. Oh yeah, nice. Okay. Good. You guys up there. Okay, so we have that now. A little bit better. Worked out a little bit better. Let's go back to, where's that photo? There. So Yeah, see, I'm not convinced my rivets are in the right spot, because you can see now there seems to be a lot less distance here than there is here on both of these. If we kind of, what I'll do in a bit here is I'll take this 2 inches and I'll break them down and say, okay, well, that looks like it's probably maybe 1/8 of an inch or something, maybe a little bit more width, and then bump these down so they have that same width. Let's see here. What can I do next for you guys? Thinking. Okay. Probably the first thing I should do is save this. Yep. She's a big file, that's for sure. Alright. Okay, so let me just take a look at these for a second. Yeah, so there's definitely more space on the bottom here than on the sides. And like I say, I think these are totally 2 inches. This whole holster, I'm going to zoom out for a sec on this. It really sits a lot higher than the other holsters. If you kind of look at where Harrison Ford wears these holsters on the other ones, you can see he seems to wear them a bit lower. So this is this holster sits like a lot tighter than the other holsters, and you sort of see that as well in how I talked about the other week, where this bit here it's not as long, and everything's really tightened up on the holster, whereas the other ones sort of sit a little bit more loose and go a little bit longer. But I think, to start out, that's a pretty good starting point for these. Now, what I'll do actually is I'm gonna come in here and just sort of go. That's too much. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 3. So that, a rough. I'll come in there and refine that a little bit more. But I think that's a pretty good start to those the episode 7 buckle or hooks there. Now, with that done, I'm going to leave that for now. I'm not going to go and duplicate them for the right yet, because I want to, there's no point in doing that until I have this one down. So we'll leave that for now. What I do want to do, though, is go up here to episode 4. And what I'm going to do is come and say, grab these, and I'm going to create a backup of these. So and get rid of you. And then I'll take these, duplicate them, select them, and do that. So, like I said before, I think they're probably symmetrical. Until otherwise, I'm going to make that assumption. Like I say, if anybody out there has better better photo or something like that we can reference, and I think for some, I just don't think that I don't know, but I'm going to assume that they're symmetrical for now. So that we'll keep that as that for now. These ones I believe are done, except for, like I say, this one may be 2 inches as well. So if that's the case, what I'll do is I'll grab the episode 7 one, I'll pull it up here, make sure these rivets are in the right spots, adjust accordingly, and that'll be that. It's really difficult for me, just to go off on a bit of a tangent here, it's really difficult for me to wrap my brain around it, because if I was creating this, and if you would make the assumption that if someone was creating these hooks, that you would have a piece of metal and you would mark it out at 3/4 of an inch or whatever it is for the height, and you would just cut one big rectangle out, and then you would chop that in half, and then you would bend the two and make all your cuts and stuff. Cutting two out of random sizes, out of different pieces of metal, could have been what they did, but it seems really random that they would do that. So in my head, I'm thinking, would they have done them symmetrical? But that's a bad way of thinking in this, because you can't think like that, right? When you do a pattern like this, because if you do, then you start making these weird assumptions that that's how they did it. And they could have grabbed two separate random pieces of metal, and you only had, I say he because probably was, I don't know who made them, but they probably, they could have cut them out of two separate pieces of metal, and one was a little skinnier, and they were like, well, who knows? But I don't know. It's annoying. It's a mystery we'll probably never be able to solve. But episode. So I think out of all these hooks, I think my episode 6 hooks are probably perfect. And you can sort of see here I have that little bend that sort of goes around and sort of joins up on itself there. I think that's probably how it's attached. It might be straight, but I don't think so. I don't think they would have made this sort of go up like this, because honestly that would just dig into you, right? It makes no sense. So they'd have a hook on the one side, on this on the other, and it would allow that to swing around. So I think these ones are done. I'm fairly convinced that with my guides turned on here, which are totally out of place now, but I think that those are correct. My episode 7 ones are going to need some work, and my episode 5 ones may need some work, and the episode 4 I think are done as well. Now, what will happen, and I'll show you guys this if I can. What I do is I take the different parts that I've created in this pattern, and I create see here. I take all the different pieces and I bring them over onto a separate layer, and I put them together. I physically build them in this program, and then I look at how they look against reference photos to say, is everything lining up correctly? Does it actually look right? And if I can find stupid. Oh, here we go. Here for a second. So let's look at, I've got the episode 4 ones I've started. So you can see here how I've taken all the little bits and pieces and sort of put them together in a way that represents some of the reference photos and says, is everything actually working? And if I can come in here and do something like this, and I can grab the rotate tool, I'll go and I'll put that exactly in the center. I can rotate these, in this way and say, excuse me, is this working? Is it clearing it? Is it making sense? And it does, right? I mean, if I put these at the different angles and check them against the reference photos, it totally makes sense and it's working. So, I think that's good. If I go and, we come back and we, take a look at this one, we can do the same, right? We can rotate this around there's a pivot point that would be on the metal here, and we can kind of go, okay, how does this sort of work? Does it make sense if this was connected? And we can sort of see, And then what I'll do is, once I've sort of lined everything up like this, I'll bring them, I'll sort of flip the whole thing and sort of show a front version and say, all right, if these, and it's not a perfect science, because if you think about it, there's really rarely are any photos straight on like this. And also, the problem is that, what was I going to say? There's camera distortions, right? So all lenses have different distortions. So it's not an exact science that you can kind of line everything up perfectly, but it gives you a good indication. Does this look like it does on the photos? And if you look at this, you might look at it and say, yeah, that looks pretty good. When I look at this, I say, that doesn't look very good at all. And I'll tell you why. So let's go and... where to go? Crap. Okay, so... Sorry, I'll go back to episode 4 here. So, on first glance, like, we're looking at this going, yeah, this looks pretty good, right? Like, it looks pretty accurate. I'm going to try to bring up the best front-on shot that I have. It's not good. I have one that's like perfect. All right, let's do this one. We're not doing this for the next 2 hours. Okay. Let's take a look at this, and then get out of here. Let's take a look at this. So mine is a little bit, let's sort of do this a bit. Lost that other one. Okay. So let's take a look at these. Oh, wow, this is annoying. But he's like, why don't you know how to use a Mac? Yeah, I know how to use a Mac. So if we kind of line these two up, right, and we look at them, we say, okay, well, is this looking right? Sort of. To me, this doesn't look like it's lining up. I mean, the gap here looks reasonable, but what I don't like here is, like, look at this, right? Look at how much of you can see here, and there's a little curve. I'm not seeing the same here. It looks to me like, also look where this little corner is kind of lining up on this, and obviously these are at different angles and stuff, but something's not looking right to me, right? And I think you're probably looking at it going, yeah, now that I kind of look at it a little bit more, it's not looking right to me either. Where this is sort of falling on this the whole thing just isn't correct, right? And this is why a couple of weeks ago when I was looking into this, I kind of feel as though I really kind of screwed up on my belt or my buckle shapes. For some reason, I don't believe that I have a correct buckle shape, because if we come in here and kind of just bump this up a couple notches, this is just random, but I did it again. Stupid thing. And I know you're all like, there's a shortcut key, but I don't know what's going to happen on streaming, and I don't want to like bring something up that I don't want you guys to see. If we make this a little bigger, you can sort of see it starts to make a little bit more sense in terms of where it falls. So anyway, what I'm saying is, and I think you get what I'm saying, is that when I create these reference photos or build these together, and look at them from that perspective, things start to not look exactly correct. And it makes me think something is off in my measurements, and that. So it's one of those things where, I have these built and that's what I was talking about before, with this being a bit of a weird knock-on effect, because the changes that I've made today to these hooks mean that now I have to reference them against the buckles. I have to reference them against the leather, and it goes on, and it just ripples through the entire holster. So it creates a bit of an issue, and it's a time-consuming process that makes things a little bit tedious and difficult. But it is what it is, and if I have to change something and deal with the consequences, then that's what I will have to do. So, that being said, it's now 4:30, so it's an hour and a half. So it's a little half hour, a little longer than usual. I kind of feel that there's not much more I can do today for you guys to, kind of work on these. Because a lot of it now is just tweaking. And so, really what I want to do now is just throw on some music for the next 2 or 3 hours. And just sit here and tweak and tweak and tweak and look back and forth and try them and build them and put them together and stuff. And, that might be fine for a lazy, rainy afternoon stream. But, for this today, I think we'll call it a day. And do that. So yeah, so I think we'll call that a day for now. Let me just grab my notes over here so we can kind of wrap this up. Next week, I want to spend some time with you guys going over Greeblies. There's some thoughts on them that I'd like to share with you guys. We can look at the different ones and make, just have a bit of a conversation about what we think they might be, what we know so far, what they are, some of the different sizes. I'll show you the ones I have again if you missed them on my first stream. And then we'll work a bit on the patterns just to get those things down. And we'll also talk a little bit about the 3D versions that I want to give away with the pattern if you are a patron, which brings me to kind of, well, I'll leave that for a sec. The other thing I wanted to mention was that this channel I want to use for lots of different fun things. I've got lots of different projects that I'd like to sort of do, and I know that most of you are here right now for the Smugglers holster, but I'd like to widen my audience and give you my current subscribers some kind of cool stuff to look at. So on this channel, there's going to be other days when I'm going to do things coming up like sushi cupcakes, a sort of basic version, and an advanced version, which is going to use, hopefully, if it works out, it's going to use some cool techniques from my days as a makeup effects artist to create like super insanely accurate looking sushi that you can eat and that are cupcakes and you can impress all your friends and stuff. So there's that. I'd like to do some Indiana Jones props that I sort of had on the back burner for a while. For example, I think one might be the necklace from Fate of Atlantis. I've seen a couple versions out there, but I would love to give you guys a pattern that is like so ridiculously accurate that no one will ever be able to touch it again. I've been working on that for a few years, and I think I'm almost ready, and I think I can show you guys that. And we can work on it to completion, which is a nice little one because it's something I can actually do in a couple of weeks that won't be too difficult. And then also with this channel, you'll notice, I know a couple of you probably be getting notifications that like all of a sudden I'll be retro gaming and stuff, and you'll show up and you'll be like, what the hell is he doing? And me and Arling will be on there playing old NES games and stuff like that. I know that some of you might find that a little bit annoying, and I apologize for that because you kind of want to show up and look at projects. There may be a day when I split the two channels up into a gaming channel and a projects channel, but for right now, while I gain, content and stuff, to get my channel kind of up and running a little bit more, I'm gonna be keeping the two, on the same channel. So if you're, not interested in that, then sorry for the notifications. If you are, hey, it's cool. I mean, Arling and I just basically go. I mean, we're old now. When we first had Nintendos back in the day, Arling was always much better than I was at playing them, and we thought, let's play them again. through them when we're older and see if our diminished brain sizes and terrible hand-eye coordination makes us better or worse, or and so far I'm just as terrible as I used to be, if not worse, and Arling is still pretty good at this stuff. So we're going to be going through the top 100 games, NES games, and some older games that are not Nintendo games. Plus, there's going to be a couple days when Arling's not around. I think I'll play some of the old games that I played growing up, like Space Quest and King's Quest and Police Quest and some of those old Sierra games, which I loved back in the day. And it might be funny to watch me try to type my way through those games, because if you don't know, back in the day you had to like pick up radio and all this kind of stuff, and these were pixels, so I'm not sure how anybody knew what anything was, but we'll go through that. So you'll notice that on here, that little sort of series is called Blowing Out the Cartridge, which is kind of what we decided was a cool name for that. So check that out if you're interested. Thanks again to Travis S. for your super generous donation. It really, honestly, it makes this, I don't do this for donations, but it makes today, just sort of sitting here going, all the pressure of going, oh, I've got 4 projects that are due tomorrow, sitting here for an hour and a half talking to you guys, it just makes it really nice. So, but not only that, this is my Patreon plug for the day. If you go over to my Patreon, I have rewards there that you guys might be interested in from a Smuggler's Holster point of view. I've got genuine Sparklets canisters that I'm giving away for patrons that donate. I think it's $30 or more. You get extra patterns for the belts that aren't the holster on, and some convention pouches and stuff. There's some nice little rewards there that I think, and obviously the 3D Greeblies, access to the 3D Greeblies. So go check it out. There's a link below on both my Twitch and my YouTube, so head over there. And honestly, just if any little bit helps, it gives me the opportunity to just work on this more and more and more, and it means that the more patrons that I get for even this specific project means I can tell somebody else, no, I don't feel like doing your project now because I don't have to. So something to consider. So I think with that, that the big patron rant at the, and I hate doing as much as you guys, hate hearing it. It's advertising. We all got to make a living, and it sucks, but it is what it is. So anyway, I think that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a little longer than usual, but it was fun. And so I will see you probably on Sunday. One last thing is, I've been streaming on Sundays, but I really am quite open during the week. So if you have a day that you think was better, or a time you think is better, let me know. Sundays are just an arbitrary time I chose. And no real reason behind it. I just thought Sundays are a good day. People are off for the weekend, but maybe you guys are out doing stuff and just Sunday is a terrible day. So maybe a Monday night or a Wednesday night. I think Tuesday nights we're going to be doing our retro gaming. So any other night during the week, if that works better for you, let me know in the comments. And I'll consider changing it around. So with that, I think that's good for today. So thanks everybody who joined. Thanks Arling for showing up in the chat and basically creating a bunch of things that'll probably get me banned. But whatever. You're gonna stream sometime and we'll see what's what. So everybody have a good week, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.